Greetings from Brother Stephen. I am a disciple and witness of Yahshua Christ. To all the inhabitants of the earth, I present to you as a witness the gospel of the kingdom. In the last lesson I did, titled Christ Coming Judgment, went over Revelations chapter 12, verses 3 through 4. In this lesson, titled Christ Coming Judgment, I'll be focusing on Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 through 14. This particular lesson, the Spirit gave to me shortly after I published the first lesson titled Christ Coming Judgment. Genesis 15:13 to 14 says, And he said unto Abraham, Know for a surety that your seed, niggers, shall be a stranger in a land. This land is the New World, called the Americas, that is not theirs, and shall serve. This is talking about slavery, enslave them, and they shall afflict. This is oppression. They shall enslave and oppress niggers 400 years. Now talk about these particular verses in Patches and Wineskin, sealing up the vision and the prophecy, and Christ's coming judgment. In Patches and Wineskin, I prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that these verses in Genesis 15:13 and 14 is not talking about the Israelites in slavery in Egypt, and that the Israelites was only slaves in Egypt for about 80 years. I'll go over that with a detailed timeline in Patches and Wineskins, but just for a really quick review, the children of Israel went into slavery after Joseph died, right before Moses was born. Moses is the one that delivered the children of Israel from out of Egypt. He went back and stood before Pharaoh at 80 years old, which means the children of Israel was only slaves in Egypt for about 80 years, not 400. All of these movies that they have in the United States of America, and they steady quoting, and in the movie, the so-called Israelites are steady quoting they've been slaves for 400 years. Those movies was made to deceive you. The Israelites are not white, and they was not enslaved in Egypt for 400 years. Another thing that I went over in sealing up the vision and the prophecy was the Atlantic slave trade. That during the Atlantic slave trade, Israelites, also called niggers, was taken out of nigger in Africa and sold in North America, South America, and Australia, because the scriptures say they shall be strangers in a land that is not theirs. The Israelites knew Africa, they knew Europe, they knew Asia. So the prophecy could not be fulfilled in those lands. And I said in this lesson it had to happen in North America, South America, and Australia. Now when we go to verse 14, it says, and also that nation, talking about the new world, the Americas, whom they shall serve, I will judge. This judgment is talking about the lesson I just did with Christ, called Christ's coming judgment. It says, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. So, back over those scriptures really quick. Let's go over Revelation chapter 8, verses 16 to 14. Again, this is the first four trumps. And like I said, I go over this in detail in Christ's coming judgment. And the seven angels, which had the seven trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and a third. Now I put this in the last lesson also. That's 33%, a third of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire. This is a huge asteroid was cast into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Again, a third, 33%. And a third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon a third, 33% of the rivers, and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of that star is called Wormwood. The third part of the waters became poison, and many died of the waters because they were bitter. Verse 12, and the fourth angel sounded, and a third, 33% of the sun was smitten, and 33% of the moon, and 33% of the stars, as 33% of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third of it, and the night likewise. Now, what I have here is the continents of the world. And and what I have here is the percentage of land that the continents make up. If you take all these percentages, it equals 100% of the world's land mass. That's North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, Antarctica, and Australia. Now what I have here is the Americas. North America, South America, Australia. When you total up those land masses, they equal exactly a third, 33.5%. And this concludes this gospel.